Hi everybody, I'm Maria and this is my husband Craig of mariamindbodyhealth.com, and we want to teach you how to effectively do keto for fat loss.
Yes, there's a lot of ways to do keto, and one of the things that happens is you get a lot of people that are chasing the wrong thing. They'll chase a blood ketone number, and as we described in the last video, a higher blood ketone level does not correlate to better results. So what's important to focus on to make sure you're losing that extra body fat? That's what we're going to cover today. You want to say something?
I was just going to say that, keto is great for so many things. Our kids eat keto all the time. They joke that they're carnivores, but they're not in it for weight loss. And one of the things that we hear clients say all the time is, I tried keto and I gained a bunch of weight. And it's like, yeah, who are you following? What rules are you following? If you're doing that 80% fat of the pie, if you're eating 80% fat because that's what you read, you're probably going to gain weight because there's no need for your body to tap into your own body fat. And that's what we wrote about in keto, and we're going to talk about a bit about the fat flux and how to get into the whole fat burning process.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad keto advice out there, and we'll get into a lot of that in our myths section and misconceptions. But we hear it all the time. You're not losing weight, add more fat.
Yeah.
And this is why the science shows you why that is bad advice. Fat flux is really this concept of in your adipose site, that's your fat storage location. It's like a cell that you store all your fat in. You have a bunch of these all over your body. But those adipocytes, those fat cells, they always have fat coming in and out of them. It's a sort of flux of fat coming in and out. And in our book, we talk about this in detail. You have this flux of fat going in and out of the fat cells in the storage sites. So what this means is your body is using fat for fuel primarily now, so you've got quite a bit of fat coming out. But if you have a lot of dietary fat coming in, exceeding what is needed for fueling your body, you're going to have more going back into the fat storage sites, into the adipose sites. So what's really important is what I kind of termed in this book is getting into a negative fat flux. And that's where you're getting more fat coming out of those fat storage sites than is going back in. And there's a lot of ways to do that. One, being keto primes the pump, if you will, to get that fat coming out to be burned as fuel.
Yep.
Not eating too much dietary fat and keeping the carbs low enough so that you keep burning that stored body fat for fuel. More exercise is a big one. The more activity, you're going to be utilizing and using up more of that stored body fat that's coming out to be used. So, exercise is a big component of it.
Yeah, so if you really want to kick up your fat flux, you have to be aware of, make sure that you keep your carbohydrates as low as possible. Even though we're not really in it for weight loss anymore, we don't add in more carbohydrates. We usually typically kick up our protein and, if we want to, our fat a little bit, to satiation. But if I add in carbohydrates, that comes in a whole nother issue, and I will cover that in another video. But
yeah, and we'll in another video as well, we'll talk about the nutrient-dense foods that are out there, and you don't need to add a ton of vegetables and things back in to get your nutrients. There's a lot of other ways to get those nutrients, and we'll talk about that in another chapter. But yeah, this fat flux is what it all comes down to for losing stored body fat. You want a negative fat flux, so you have more coming out than going back in. So those adipocytes are shrinking. They're getting smaller. That is body recomposition. You're not burning up stored muscle like you can do on low-fat diet, some of these low-fat diets that are out there. you end up using up muscle tissue instead of burning off your fat stores, which you don't want. You don't want to lose that lean mass.
Well, maybe we should dive more into how to do the negative fat flux. I'm guessing that's what they want to know.
We described how to be in ketosis before, right? To be in negative fat flux, you have what is essentially fat balance. So fat balance, what that means is you have more fat being burned off the body than is being used.
So don't count percentages. Don't worry about that.
That's a big one.
Because I read that every day online.
Yep.
That you need to hit 80% fat. So people are doing shots of MCT oil or sucking down bulletproof coffee. You don't recommend that, do you?
Not at all. No, that's a big no-no, because that's going to push you, again, into that balance where more fat is going into the adipose than is coming out. And you could even either be stalled or you could even gain weight. And we see this all the time where we have clients that come to us who've been doing all the bulletproof coffees and all these things, and they're gaining weight.
Yep.
So part of this too is, what's your goal? If your goal is, epilepsy treatments and reducing seizures, then maybe ketone levels are important. But the vast majority of people are here to lose weight.
This video is about weight loss.
And so that is where you want to focus, is balancing the fat.
So instead of percentages, maybe focus on macros?
Yeah, so yes, definitely focus on macros. As we talked in the last one video.
That is personal.
Getting those carbs low enough, hitting your protein goal, and then fat is a lever.
How do you find out your protein goal? You can go to mariamindbodyhealth.com and search keto calculator.
Which on our website.
We did it for you.
Or we explain it in this book.
Right.
But here is your fat balance. So you have these charts in our book that really explain it in simple to understand terms. On this balance, you get this scale, and one side's lipolysis. So this is
page 72 for those of you who have the book.
This is the fat coming out of the fat stores. The other side is dietary fat. That's the fat coming back in.
Yep.
And if that balance, if it's fairly equal, you won't lose or gain any body fat. If you get a little less dietary fat than your body needs for fuel, it's going to burn more out of the fat stores. So it's kind of that balance of fat in the diet. Once you clear out the oxidative priority, which we'll talk about in another video, and just focus on fat as your energy source.
Right. So what I want to make clear is, instead of focusing on percentages, focus on your personal macros.
Yes.
And follow those guidelines, whether you use the book to find your personal macros or the keto calculator that we have on our site. It has fantastic results. I can't tell you how perfected they are.
Percentages is just a really flawed way to look at it, because just think about it in a very simple terms. If you're eating 5,000 calories and 5% carbs, you're talking about what?
Mathematician
do
there.
The quick math. 500 divided by 125. So about 75 grams of carbs.
Ooh.
You're going to be out of ketosis.
Well, I would gain weight. Yeah.
If you're only eating 1,000 calories and you got 5%, that are carbs, now you're probably in the 20 gram range and you're doing much better. So it is really relative to what you're eating, and so it's very variable. One person to the next could have wildly different amounts of fat, protein, and carbs in their diet, and it leads to failure because people are getting too much fat or too much carbohydrate in their diet, and it's just not getting them into the state they want to be.
Yep.
So focusing on your personal macros based on your lean mass, keeping carbs to a macro level like 20 grams or 30 grams a day, total carbs, and then fat is your lever.
Thanks, everybody. That is how to lose weight with keto. Now, if you like this video and you want more videos on our science, leave a comment below on what you'd like to see the next video be. Thanks, everybody.
And click subscribe below.
Yep, and you'll get all the updates. Mahalo.